time to get really serious because the mind is really good at distracting and moving us off point.
Hi everyone, Elle Ballard here with you today with Women of the World Network. And I have my special guest with us today, Robyn Locke. Hi, Robyn.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Thank you for taking the time to be here. And I'm excited for this conversation today. Before we jump on, I want to introduce Robyn first. So Robyn bridges the physical with the non-physical world. She's a transformation facilitator, international speaker, author, and energy intuitive and spiritual seeker. She works with beings known as the elders, who are described as pure consciousness and infinite awareness. Together, they have created a roadmap to find your purpose in this life through in-person events, coaching, speaking engagements, blog posts, or by utilizing their books, The Greater Purpose, Awaken to Your Reason for Being. That's the name of the book. Their self-help, self-healing book is titled Awaken, the Definitive Guide to Transformative Change. So have you ever wondered why you're here? Well, that's what we'll be discussing today. Welcome, Robyn.
Thank you.
Beautiful. I have so many questions and I'm just excited for this conversation. My first question today is, how did you, Robyn, discover and begin communications with the elders, and who are the elders?
So it was probably back in 2015 that I found myself really wanting to know my purpose. And I would sit for hours focused on it and trying to get my mind out of the way. And my mind would always say, oh, this is much too complicated. You can't find your purpose. You've never found your purpose. Why do you think you can find your purpose now? And I just got tired of that mumbo jumbo and decided it was time to get really serious because the mind is really good at distracting and moving us off point and saying that these other things like our checklists that are so important are more important than our spiritual objectives. So it was back then that I really sat with it, and I was living in Colorado. And I always attribute it to the convergence of the mountains and the energy there. That I started asking these overarching questions, like big picture questions.
Yeah.
And I would get answers and I'd write them down. And initially, years ago, I did that as well. And I did it for a time and stopped and had a 9 to 5. I never had a 9 to 5 job, but I had a 7 to 6 o'clock job. I always worked longer and harder, but I always thought that that would get me to where I wanted to go. So it wasn't ever a burden, as this is never a burden to work the hours that I work now. But I would just clear my mind. And I got the very first book that I received was the little book To Find Your Purpose, which is on your original purpose and not the life purpose, which are different. And the way I describe that is, if you have your original purpose, you imagine a wheel, and your life purpose is like a spoke on the wheel. So you have many lifetimes, and each lifetime you have a component of the bigger, more vast purpose, but it's not the whole objective. It's not the whole purpose. It's an adjective.
It's just a part of it.
Of the bigger scope and scale. So I was getting these insights, and finally I said at one point, who are you and what am I to call you? And they said, you may call us the elders. And I said, gosh, that sounds so formal. Is there something a little bit less formal that I can call you? And they said, it will do for now, and we can always look at the name at another time, and you can call us something else at that point if we should decide, together that we need to rename it. But once you get used to a name, you can't midstream, or at least I don't. I don't want to change it now. That's who I know to be the elders. And I asked how they would describe themselves, because I never wanted to talk to someone who had been living and is deceased, because I felt like they knew what I knew, and I wanted a being or a knowledge or an understanding that didn't have all the limitation that we have from being physical. And so they are not that. and they describe themselves as pure consciousness and infinite awareness. And so they have the 360 view without the filter of the mind, because the way I look at it is, and everything that I look at, none of the insights are from me. They're
Mhm.
all from the elders. So when I share what I know, it's because I've been given that,
Yeah.
because through my mind, I wouldn't know any of this. But what they had suggested at that point was that when you come from spiritual essence, you're boundless. You don't have the definition of any kind of form. And so when you make the election to come into this earth experience, you need a soul in order to encapsulate the spiritual essence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a soul, which they have not, and there are some within the group that have incarnated, but the majority have not, then there's no point. So I had friends early on that would call them departed souls. And they said, if you refer to us as departed souls, then you don't know the energy for which you are conversing. And so they let me know early on that they look at the 360, and that we're to look at life in an impersonal way, that we're always to be of the drama and not in the drama.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I share anything that is difficult, I
Mm-hmm.
start with a smile on my face. And if I notice at any point that the smile diminishes or actually goes away, then I know that I'm entering into the story that I'm sharing.
Mm.
So
Wow.
it's my benchmark, right? To kind of keep tabs on myself. And then I like recognize it, and
Yeah.
I shift and adjust, because
Uh-huh.
everything in life, everything is a choice.
Yeah.
See here today was a choice between you and I,
Yes.
and to step out of the house, or to make an appointment, or to go to the store, or what we eat, all of it is a
Mm-hmm.
choice. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is an incredible experience that we're in, and
Yeah.
it's an incredible journey that we're enjoying.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me the background story as to how you got to do what you do. And yeah, everything is a choice. Love that. Yeah, and we touched on, and I have a couple of questions. I don't know what, but to keep us on time here, you mentioned purpose. And I want to ask, does everyone have a purpose? And if they don't, why wouldn't everyone, have a purpose? If they do, how can people tell, or someone tell, if they really do have purpose? And what is the, that agreement entered between embodying on the planet initially?
So in 2021, I was in Greece. Well, I knew that the book was coming. The third
Mm-hmm.
book, which
Mm-hmm.
comprises the three little books behind me, are brought together to make the greater purpose, which is the larger, but it's the inclusive book of all three little books. And I wanted them all to be together. So the very last book that came was when I went to Greece, and I realized I could get the book here, or I could get it somewhere else. And there was an opening. We were still in the COVID kind of concerns, and there was an opening, and I saw an opportunity, and I went. And it was a lovely experience. But within that, I was given the idea that, and the concept and the understanding, I guess I'd say, that not everyone has a purpose. What they shared is that there are new live streams that are coming into embodiment today,
Mm-hmm.
and that there are those that have been embodying for quite a time, but there are also, almost, you could say, another evolution coming into embodiment, and they have a different parameter of understanding. So I'll say that a number of individuals embodying because their soul elected to be here
Mm-hmm.
entered into an agreement, and it was the soul that entered into the agreement to understand an energy. So your purpose isn't a thing, it's the energy that you create, and the thing is the byproduct of the energy.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So it's, yeah, so because everything is energy, and I think we're going to move that to that next. Yeah.
So what happens is, when you get into that space, you're not always meant to stay in the thing that you loved at one point, but perhaps now no longer love.
Yeah.
So your purpose may change, but it's always the energy that you evoke in the doing of the thing. And so when that energy shifts, then you're meant to shift and to do whatever lights you up. And so your soul wanted to understand something that it didn't quite understand when it was spiritual in nature. So it needed the earth experience. It needed to take this form so that it could breathe in the environment, so that it could navigate and do all the things that needed to be done, so that there was this truly earth experience. And what has happened over time is that we've lost the remembrance, because I'm not going to say that we're a component of the soul. We have a spark of that divinity that we connect to through our heart space. So our soul is that greater, more vast enterprise, or the more vast being that is almost godlike, because it is divine. And we have a small component of it that allows us to connect. And that's why we're more spiritual than physical. So the vessel and all of this, which was explained in the little orange book behind me, the last book that was given, we got the opportunity to understand through being here. And the mind navigates all of the bodily functions. That's why the mind never stops. That's why a lot of people don't meditate, because they can't get the mind to stop. And so the mind relegates it. It relegates your blood flow. It tells you to breathe. You're able to take a step. If you had to think through everything that your body does effortlessly, for the most part, you wouldn't be able to do anything else.
Yeah.
So it's really a gift when you think about what we take for granted all the time by having this body and this earth experience. So not everyone has the purpose, but if you believe, so the way to know is if you believe that you have a purpose, then you have a purpose.
And you have a purpose.
It's not difficult. But it's knowing that I was thinking everybody had a purpose, but they don't.
I thought so too.
Pardon?
I thought so too. I thought everybody who is in this earth has a purpose. There is the reason they are here.
And some people you can ask. It was funny. I had this conversation with someone, and I was telling him that, not everybody has one. He said, well, it's really funny, because I was talking to one of my employees and I said, everybody has a purpose. And he said, I don't know what mine is. I don't feel like I have a purpose. Well, of course you have a purpose. Everybody has a purpose. And so, it's an election that each person has to answer. But I just know that I was told that it isn't specifically someone's understanding to have a purpose. It has to be that they feel that they have a purpose, and if they do, they know they do, and if they don't, they don't.
So when someone is feeling that they asking, what is my purpose? I'm confused. I don't know. I want to know, and I don't know. That means not that they necessarily don't know. That might mean that they just don't have it.
No. If someone is actually seeking to find thetheir purpose, then they have a purpose. Okay. But if they say to you, I don't think I have a purpose, that doesn't resonate for me. Yeah. Then that's it. But many don't know what their purpose is. And that's the difficulty, I guess I'd say, if there's any difficulty. That's the difficulty, because I believe that's why we're here. Yeah. Those of us who have a purpose, and we've lost the connection to why we're here. And so we are in search of that aspect of that understanding, because, and this may be a little bit out there for those listeners, but what I'll say is that you will potentially incarnate and continue to incarnate here until you enact what you set out to understand, do, or be. So it's that opportunity, because where you came from, there is no time. So there was never the concern that it would take too long to figure it out. So it's that opportunity to go into that space and to understand what it is that you wanted to understand, what your soul wanted to understand. And until you enact it, because I was told that most of us have already been in our purpose. But if we don't do it from a state of consciously being aware,
Mm-hmm.
that we're in our purpose and doing our purpose and enacting our purpose, then it's almost like it doesn't count, because you can't haphazardly
Mm-hmm.
engage in your purpose. You have to be in that purpose and know that this is what you're doing. And I did an event about a month ago, and I was driving to the event, and I heard in my mind's eye, now, how does it feel to
Mm-hmm.
be going to the event and knowing that you're sharing all of this with those who are ready to listen and to absorb? And I said, it feels great, because you always want to associate everything that you do with the feeling component, because you want to know what the good part of it is and what the bad part of it is. And when we stuff down the bad part and we don't allow ourselves to feel it, then we have stuck energy, which is the beginnings of disease and illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always want the good and the bad, because we wouldn't know how good it was
Right.
unless we
If we didn't see the difference. Yeah.
the converse energy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. And so that actually brings me to the point of speaking about feelings, the energy, vibration, frequency, and then the emotions, right? So the emotions we feel, and
Critically important.
yeah, and sometimes, especially if it's negative feeling or emotion, sometimes it's hard to process for us, and like you said, we just want to get rid of it, or we want to replace it. How do
Got
we process those emotions?
So the best way, so I have to refer to the best tool, which is the Awaken book. And the reason is it is about 50 plus understandings, exercises, processes that you go through, and you release, release, release.
Mhm.
Chapter 9 is one of the meatiest chapters, but you want to work through and get to chapter 9. And chapter 9 has you set up all these different charts where I did it when I was in Boulder County, where I was given these books, and I did it on a Saturday, and I've done it a couple of other days after that, where I literally every hour I would follow what the guidelines were, and I would write everything out. I would center and feel it, because the objective is to feel
Mhm.
for not very long, but maybe a few minutes, so that you really feel the energy that you've suppressed.
Mm,
Because until you feel it, you
yeah,
can't expel it. And so what happens is, when it's stored within over time, and it's not that we get old, it's just that it's been in the body for so long that
yeah.
as it's been in the body, the good cells want to synergistically align with whatever's there. Well,
Mm,
what's there is not in alignment with what is in alignment. So the in alignment shifts and becomes out of alignment.
mhm.
And that's the beginnings of disease and illness. Then when you get through chapter 9 and you've done that, then you move on, and chapter 14 is a reset of the subconscious. Because at the subconscious level, we internalize a lot of things that aren't true. They're just not real. And
Mhm.
so it's a reset back to universal design. And then what I'll say is, once you've gone through, because the end of the book is all about universal love, the elders come from the energy of love. And so universal love, I believe, is their forte. And so they've never told me that, but I feel that, because I connected the dots the other day, and we're doing a lot of meditations on universal love. And I was like, well, duh, they're the energy of love. Of course,
Yeah.
they're going to share on universal love, which is the greatest healing component that we can put back into nature when there's a storm or a tornado or a hurricane or some bad weather occurrence. We can move universal love into it to stabilize that erratic energy. And it's also a healing energy that we can move into our own being and world. And there's so much more too that it does, I'm sure, that I don't know, but I know those two things for sure. And
Mm,
so when you get into doing all of that, the very last chapter is about developing an energetic cocoon, almost, that will envelop your body like a velvet blanket.
mm,
And
mhm,
you put it over your body to
mhm.
help your body heal. And I've done all the steps in the book. And what's really cool is, like, I tried the reset of the subconscious the first time, and I didn't think it took. So I did it the second time, and I could feel it was like a weight on my shoulders. You don't realize the weight that you carry. And
Yeah.
it was almost like a burden of the burdens of having these things on my shoulders was released. And it was like my shoulders just lifted up and allowed a new energy to emerge. And it just, so I know what this is. And it's one of those things where you want to then do it again. So every time you read the book, you come at it at a different energetic level. So now you're reading it not from, and not that any level is bad.
Yeah.
Every level is fine, but you're reading it, but just for understanding, you read it, say at this level, and then the next time you come in, you're reading it at this level. So now the words have a little bit different understanding than they had before. And so it's like an evolving book that ever changes, because I've gone through it probably 20 times. And so
I love that.
I know of what I speak, because it's how you can see life differently. And when you see life, they call it rose-colored glasses. So when you can look at life differently, then your perspective changes. And when you change your beliefs and release beliefs, then your perspective will yield, because the perspective is needed as a reinforcement to the belief. But if you release the belief, then you no longer need the perspective to reinforce it.
I love that. So I will definitely, we're going to post the links to the Awaken book. I am getting that book and we will have links for the book. So for our listeners can get a copy of this book and all the exercises, all the steps that you just described. Yeah, that sounds beautiful, amazing. Love the blanket and how it just, so definitely. So how does karma play here? Like, what about karma? What the role? And I know we are talking very very deep subjects here, and it's I personally love this conversation, and we'll definitely continue. But there are different levels, right? So what about the understanding? Maybe give us the how do you see karma? What is it, how like what's the role it plays here in the conversation that we're having today?
So what they've shared is that karma has definitions that are included that are man-made and not real. And the one that I knew for a very long time was the one where you needed to atone for every negative thing that you've done so that you could balance it. And what they said is that is man-made, that there was never the need for atonement. They said if you wanted to atone for everything that you've done wrong in this and other lifetimes, you will be coming back here for a very long time. But they said the real understanding is to make whole. So the understanding of karma as it was intended is to make whole what is not. And so you're bringing wholeness and that greater aspect of completion to the table, because sometimes the soul fragments, sometimes there are different things that happen within the experience. But if you're always moving toward bringing wholeness back into the equation and back to the soul and this understanding, that's what it's all about. So it's,
what do we mean by wholeness here, if we can just elaborate a little bit for our listeners?
Sure. So imagine that your soul was a part of an experience that a personality, I consider this a personality of my soul.
Yeah.
So if there was a bad experience or something that was not anticipated, that was a shock to the experience that was going on physically. Sometimes the soul separates. And what they explained, and it's explained really nicely in Awaken, but it's almost like it's a minimization of, it's cutting its losses. It's making sure it doesn't lose more of itself by staying fully tethered to that life experience. And so there may be missing components, or the soul may not be completely whole. And so what it is if there are components that are fractured, then It's the opportunity to call back in components that were lost in another time. That makes sense?
Yeah. 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 Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's never about trying to make perfect, because in this space, we're not meant to be perfect. We came from perfection. In this space, we're allowed to understand things through the imperfections that exist. And so it's that love. It's giving ourselves love unconditionally.
Yes.
And recognizing that we don't need to be perfect here. We do the best that we can, which is different than trying to be perfect.
Yes. Yes.
And we bring that to the table in all that we do. You know, it's integrity. It's being truthful. It's being honorable. You know, it's being the best part of you that you can be. And when you are that, then everyone associated with you is buoyed up as you are buoying up yourself. So the only thing that we can control is right here. I can't control anything out here. So I just control this. And my objective is, as I do the best that I can, then everyone that I touch, maybe they're doing the best that they can, and we're all a little bit elevated from that experience. And so it's never meant that you have to do everything the right way or the perfect way or the, you know, but you just do it the best you can.
Yeah.
You do it with love, and you always do it, well, first anchoring from the heart space, because that is your beginning of the day. It is the energy then that you draw to you throughout the day. If you establish here rather than with your phone or your laptop or mentally, then what you put out, law of attraction, everything that you put out is going to return back to you, but it's going to return from this energy as opposed to this energy.
Yes, I love that. And I feel like perfection, when we just leave it outside and lead with heart, and that's better in the end result of it, because that's who we truly are. We're stepping up who we truly are versus perfection. Sometimes whatever we were told, again, head, and that's not even true. Might not be true.
What they teach us, it's an addiction, and it's a limitation. Because now you're limiting. I was talking to someone yesterday, and everything that they said was because they were trying to do it perfectly, they were limiting what they were putting out into the world. I said, get rid of all that. You know, no one's expecting perfection. Bring it where you are, because you'll attract those that will see the value, because they're not where you are.
Yeah, because it opens us up, because we're not limited. When we're trying to seek perfection, it's a lot of negative energy, and then we kind of, even in that limited space, because we have in our mind we have that picture. I love that. So again, I love this conversation. I could continue, and I know we're gonna definitely have to have another conversation, Robyn. Maybe after you come back from your travels, and you have a travel coming up, and we will post a link to the book. I need to get that book today as well. I'm looking forward to read that book as well. And to move on, I want to ask you the question that I usually ask. What does it mean for you, being a member of Women of the World Network here with us? What does it mean for you to be a woman of the world?
So I think this is an amazing group, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of it, because my objective is to meet so many people and to share what I have been given. And it's that opportunity, really, to have someone be able to choose what they believe or don't believe, or what they want to bring into their lives. And so this is an opportunity, in my mind, to meet so many wonderful people who are looking for purpose and are looking for those things that move their life in the positivity that I know the life can exist. So it's a wonderful network of women that allow us to all interconnect, because at the end of the day, we're all connected. And when one is buoyed up, everyone is buoyed up. And so what a great opportunity to have a lovely group of people such as this.
Thank you, Robyn. And thank you for being part of Women of the World. It's so awesome to have you. Was definitely interesting, such a rich what you bring to the group. And if somebody, just a quick one here before we jump into the rapid fire questions, if someone is looking, because a lot of people are looking, like you said, if someone is looking to find their purpose, then they have the purpose. And what do you recommend for them to help them to find that purpose? And how, once they do, they think it is the purpose, how do they know it's the right one? Or if they feel it is the right one, it's probably the right one.
So it's all about how you feel.
Yeah.
I mean, greater purpose gives a lot of understanding. That gives you the background, that gives you how you chose your life experience, how you chose different things, that foundational footing, let's say. But really, at this point in time, what I would say is that when you always connect first to your heart space, and then you want to sit in contemplation, meditation, prayer, however you term it, and you want to still the mind. And if you have difficulty stilling the mind, there are meditations. We've got some on our Advanced Energetics YouTube channel, but you can listen to those. And what I would recommend is, if you listen to ours, listen to them. They're about 10, 15 minutes. And it will allow you to move the mind out of its prominent position of power, replacement over the body, and you move it out and away. And then you ask those questions, beginning from the heart space. You ask those questions of yourself, and you allow the mind to pause, and you allow answers to come in. And what you're doing is you're developing that communication with your soul. And then you also have, and I hope this isn't too much information, but you also have an unseen entourage of 4 to 6 that are with you at all times. And they are also those that you can enlist to give you answers. So you've got the means of getting answers. You just have to still the mind long enough so that you can allow the answers to come in.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, because I know a lot of ladies, a lot of women, looking, they come and look for the purpose. So those who are listening to us right now, check out Advanced Energetics YouTube, and those and subscribe to the channel and listen to those meditations, and connect to the heart space. Love that. Thank you, Robyn. I'm going to move on to the rapid fire questions that we usually end this session with. And if you are ready.
I am.
Okay, great. So my first question is, your favorite book name is?
A Little Book to Find Your Purpose.
I love it. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Favorite international destination to visit?
That's hard.
I know there are so many good ones.
That's hard. I'd say, Paris. I love Switzerland.
Love Paris.
I love the south of France. I love Italy, England.
So many. Awesome. Summer? Europe. Yeah, Europe. Yeah. Summer or winter?
I like aspects of both.
Yeah.
Now that we've been in winter for so long, I'm ready for some summer.
Yes, same here. Yeah, it's been a little cold in California. I'm ready for some heat.
I'd say winter. I love winter, but I'm ready for some summer.
Yeah. I like a good mix too. Okay, and the last one is things that you have discovered about yourself recently.
Just that we never learn all that there is to know. Like, I know so little.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for what I do know. And I'm grateful for the wonderment. I live from a space of wonderment. It's the elders say to live in the wonderment of the child. So that you always have that expectation of curiosity.
Yes.
That loving space that allows you to look at life without the critical eye.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I have chills. I have the energy in the air. I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, this has been such a treat.
And thank you for playing, and thank you for sharing. Thank you so much, Robyn, for taking the time to speak today. This was so beautiful. Again, we're going to post all the links for Robyn. Connect with her, learn from her. So amazing. All these books, YouTube channel that we have shared today, and we'll post those links, and we will see you on our next episode. Bye, everyone.